This story is called My Wife Got Back in Shape, decided she could do better than me, filed for divorce, and then regretted it almost immediately. Hey guys, before we dive into today's story, I just need a quick favor from you. Lately, we've noticed the channel's been losing a bit of momentum, and honestly, subscribing is one of the biggest ways you can help support us. It takes just a second, it's completely free, and it really helps us keep putting out content like this for you. Your support seriously means everything to us, and we'd love to keep growing this channel together. Alright, I appreciate you guys. Let's get into it. What's going on, everyone? Ryan here. So yeah, buckle up, because not too long ago, my life completely spiraled into chaos. I'm 37 years old, nothing special, just a regular guy working as a warehouse manager out in Columbus. My life wasn't anything flashy or exciting, but it was stable, and honestly, I was fine with that. I had a solid job, a decent house, and I was married to my wife, Nicole. We'd been together for about 5 years, married for 3, and as far as I was concerned, things were pretty good between us. Were we some over-the-top romantic couple like you see in movies? Not really, but we had something that worked. The bills were always paid on time, we made an effort to have date nights, and yeah, we argued sometimes, but that just felt like normal marriage stuff to me. Or at least, that's what I thought at the time. About 6 months ago, Nicole suddenly decided she was going to completely transform her life and get into fitness. It honestly came out of nowhere, but I supported her right away. She signed up for this fancy gym downtown that, no joke, looked more like a luxury spa than an actual gym. Then she hired herself a personal trainer, some guy named Brandon, and all of a sudden she's talking nonstop about meal prepping, counting macros, and doing detox programs. I didn't have a problem with any of it. If anything, I backed her up. Encouraged her, even. I mean, everyone deserves to feel good in their own skin, right? And honestly, I figured it was just another one of her phases, like when she randomly got into knitting for 2 weeks, or that time she was obsessed with tarot cards. In the beginning, I actually tried to help however I could. I started picking up more responsibilities around the house, doing the dishes, handling laundry, grocery shopping, just so she'd have more time to focus on her workouts. In my mind, that was me showing her I cared. But little by little, things started changing. And not in a good way. The more weight Nicole lost, the more her ego seemed to grow. She became completely fixated on her appearance, spending hours standing in front of the mirror, adjusting her gym outfits, or trying to get the perfect progress photo for Instagram. It stopped being about her feeling better. She wanted attention. I remember one night, I suggested we just chill and watch a movie together. It was a Friday, and I figured we could relax like we used to. She looked at me like I'd said something ridiculous. Ryan, I don't have time to just sit around. I've got goals to crush. Goals? What goals? She wasn't training for a marathon or climbing Everest. She was lifting weights and drinking what looked like green swamp juice. But whatever. I just brushed it off. Maybe I was the one being unreasonable. Then came the morning that changed everything. It started off like any other day. I was barely awake, standing there with my coffee, trying to mentally prepare for work, while Nicole was already up, chugging one of her usual kale and spinach disaster smoothies. She was dressed in her workout clothes, glued to her phone like it was the most important thing in the world. And then, out of nowhere, she says, "I deserve more in life." I looked up at her, still half asleep. Huh? More of what? She slowly set her smoothie down, then looked straight at me with this serious expression. "This marriage is holding me back, Ryan. I'm filing for divorce." I honestly thought she was joking. I even laughed for a second, thinking she was messing with me. But she didn't laugh. Her face stayed completely cold. "I've outgrown this," she said, like I was just some outdated piece of furniture she didn't need anymore. You wouldn't understand. I just sat there, completely blindsided. This was my wife, the woman I'd spent years building a life with, and she just dropped that on me like it was nothing. I tried to wrap my head around what she was saying, but all I could feel was this mix of shock and anger building up inside me. "What do you mean you've outgrown this?" "Outgrown what?" She let out this annoyed sigh, like I was some kid asking dumb questions. "Ryan, I've been working on myself. I'm trying to become the best version of me. And honestly, this life doesn't match my potential anymore." She paused for a second, then added, "I want more than this house, this routine, this you." That hit hard. She didn't even try to soften it. In her eyes, I was part of the problem. The life we built together, it wasn't good enough for her anymore. Then she grabbed her gym bag and walked out the door without even saying goodbye. I just sat there, staring at the half-empty glass of that green sludge she left behind, trying to figure out what the hell had just happened. That whole day at work felt like a blur. I went through the motions, but my mind kept going back to Nicole. Was this actually real? Was she seriously leaving me? Yeah, we'd argued before, but divorce? This felt sudden, but at the same time, way too calculated. The way she said it, like she'd practiced that speech over and over, made it obvious she'd already made her decision long before that morning. Over the next few days, everything started falling apart even more. The problems in our marriage became impossible to ignore. She barely spoke to me unless it was about splitting things up or arranging mediation. She started staying out late all the time, saying she was at the gym or hanging out with friends. Her phone was basically glued to her hand, and her Instagram was blowing up with selfies and captions like "New Chapter," "Who dis," and "Living my best life." Every single post felt like a punch to the gut. It was obvious she'd already moved on mentally, even if the divorce wasn't finalized yet. One night, I was scrolling through my own social media when I noticed something. She had deleted every single photo of us. Wedding pictures? Gone. Anniversary posts? Gone. It was like I never even existed. Meanwhile, her new posts were getting flooded with likes and comments from people hyping her up. "You're glowing. So inspiring." It honestly made me sick. None of those people had any idea who she really was, or what she was putting me through. Another night, I overheard her talking on the phone while I was getting ready for work. She was in the kitchen, using that fake, overly sweet voice she always used when she wanted something. "Yeah, I just feel so free now," she said. "I'm finally doing what makes me happy." She paused, then giggled. "He doesn't even get it. He's stuck in the past." That was the moment everything clicked. Nicole wasn't just leaving me. She was reinventing herself. And I was just the weight she was cutting loose. But here's the thing. I'm not the kind of guy who just rolls over and takes that. She thought she could walk all over me, take what she wanted, and move on like I didn't matter. But she had no idea what was coming. This was just the beginning. And if Nicole wanted a fight, she was going to get one. But trust me, it didn't stop there. It actually got worse. One afternoon, I was grabbing lunch at this little cafe near my job. I was just sitting there, minding my business, scrolling on my phone, when I overheard a couple of guys at the table next to me. They were talking about some fitness girl they found online. I didn't really pay attention until I heard them say her name. Nicole. My stomach instantly dropped. They were laughing, talking about how she was promoting some kind of premium content. At first, I told myself, no way. There's no chance that's her. But then one of them pulled up her Instagram on his phone. And yeah, it was her. My Nicole. They kept going on about how she'd been teasing an OnlyFans account, posting links in her bio with captions like, "For the real workouts." And right then, my blood started boiling. So yeah, at that point, it was clear this wasn't just some harmless fitness phase anymore. Nicole had taken her new life and turned it into full-on attention-seeking for money. The second I got home, I didn't waste any time. I confronted her. She was just sitting there on the couch, casually scrolling through her phone like everything was normal. "Nicole," I said, trying hard not to lose my temper. "What the hell is this OnlyFans stuff I'm hearing about?" She glanced up at me like I'd asked the most boring question in the world. "It's my body, Ryan. My choice. And honestly, it's none of your business anymore." I just stood there, stunned. "None of my business? We're still married," I shot back. "And you're out here, basically selling yourself online, while I'm trying to keep our lives from falling apart." She rolled her eyes like I was some clueless old guy stuck in the past. "I'm not selling myself," she said. "It's called content creation. Tons of people do it." Then she added, "And besides, it's not like you're paying my bills anymore." That's when it really clicked. Nicole didn't just want out of the marriage. She wanted a completely different life. In her version of things, she was the star of the show, and I was just some background character she'd already written out. And the craziest part? She wasn't embarrassed. She wasn't sorry. If anything, she seemed proud, like she'd finally discovered her true purpose as some kind of online personality. Over the next few weeks, things only got worse. Way worse. Her whole attitude shifted. She started dressing like she was trying out for a reality TV show, tight dresses, heels way too high for everyday life, makeup layered on like frosting. Every time she walked out the door, she looked like she was headed to a red carpet event, not just running errands. And don't even get me started on her captions. "Living my truth. No more holding back." And the one that made me want to launch my phone across the room. She's not a wife anymore. She's a force of nature. The audacity. While Nicole was out there playing celebrity, I was stuck dealing with the actual consequences. Lawyers, paperwork, meetings, real life. But here's the thing. Nicole wasn't nearly as untouchable as she thought she was. My lawyer, Adam, absolute legend, by the way, had started digging into things. And what he found, let's just say, things were about to get interesting. Turns out, Nicole had gotten herself involved with a very specific type of guy. You know, the kind who just happens to hang out at a fancy gym all day. Yeah, I think you can guess who I'm talking about. Stick around, because from here on out things get messy. Fast. Update 1. What's up again, Reddit? It's Ryan, your favorite soon-to-be divorced guy, front row seat to what's quickly turning into my ex-wife's very public meltdown. If you've been following along, you already know the basics. Nicole decided she was too good for the life we had, walked out on me, and has been running around acting like some kind of fitness influencer celebrity ever since. But now, let's talk about the guy who's been fueling all of this. Brandon. Yeah, her personal trainer. Real original, right? The second I heard his name, I knew this wasn't just some innocent trainer-client situation. Not even close. Brandon was exactly the kind of guy you'd expect to see on some trashy dating reality show. Completely shredded, overly tan, and about as deep as a puddle in a parking lot. All charm, muscles, and that smug little grin. Like he stepped straight out of a low-budget rom-com. And Nicole? She wasn't even trying to hide it. One day she walks into the house after a workout, practically glowing. Brandon says I'm stronger than I've ever been, she says, bragging, not even bothering to look at me. Yeah, Nicole. I'm sure Brandon also tells every woman he trains that she's special. It's called a script. A few weeks later, she stopped pretending it was just about the gym. Now she's casually dropping his name into conversations like it's nothing. Brandon's taking me to this new vegan place. Brandon says this protein powder is life-changing. Meanwhile, I'm just standing there like, do I look like I care? But it wasn't just talk anymore. She was showing him off, like he was some kind of trophy. Word got around fast. Friends started texting me, telling me they'd seen Nicole and Brandon all over town, holding hands, laughing, acting like they were some perfect Instagram couple. And Nicole, she didn't even try to hide it. One night, she comes home, bold as ever, and goes, just so you know, Brandon and I are dating now. You should probably accept that. Oh, I accepted it. Accepted that my wife had officially turned into a walking cliché. In her mind, she'd already divorced me. So what did it matter if she added a public relationship on top of it? The more I learned about Brandon, though, the angrier I got. Because this guy, he wasn't just some random gym dude. He had a pattern. And once again, Adam came through. My lawyer dug into his past and found out Brandon had pulled this exact same move before. Twice. Same playbook every time. Find a married woman. Flood her with compliments. Build her up. Make her feel unstoppable. Convince her she deserves better. Then push her to leave her husband. And once the situation dries up, emotionally or financially, he disappears. Just like that. Brandon wasn't some romantic hero. He was a professional homewrecker. This wasn't love. It was a business model. He'd hype these women up, ride the wave while it benefited him, and then bail when it didn't. And Nicole? She was the perfect target. She needed attention the way fish need water. And Brandon gave her exactly what she wanted. Had her completely wrapped around his finger, and she didn't even realize it. The worst part? He wasn't even subtle about it. From what I heard through mutual acquaintances, Brandon was already talking big. Like, really big. Apparently, he told someone, once the divorce is finalized, Nicole and I are gonna build an empire. An empire? Man, you're a personal trainer, not a tech billionaire. But hey, dream big, I guess. The truth was, Brandon wasn't just after Nicole. He was after what came with her, which meant my money. Nicole was already demanding half my savings, asking for spousal support, and even trying to take the house. She really thought she could walk into court, play the victim, and walk out with everything she needed to fund her new life with Brandon. But she had no idea what was coming. Because my lawyer? He had receipts. And I wasn't about to just sit back and let it happen. Let me paint the picture for you. Brandon looked like a guy who only owns tank tops. Nicole suddenly thought she was a Kardashian. And together, they were everywhere online. Posing in front of expensive cars, definitely not theirs. Tagging fancy restaurants, also probably not on Brandon's budget. It was like they were screaming, look at us. We made it. But honestly, to anyone paying attention, it was obvious they were overcompensating. That whole relationship. Cracks were already starting to show. Brandon's over-the-top personality started clashing hard with Nicole's growing diva attitude. One night, I overheard her arguing on the phone in the kitchen. I don't care what your ex has said about you, Brandon, she snapped. You're with me now, and I deserve better than your baggage. I didn't catch the rest. Didn't need to. That was enough to tell me their perfect little fantasy wasn't so perfect after all. And yeah, I won't lie. As much as it pissed me off, there was something satisfying about watching her go all in on this guy. She'd put everything on the line for him, bet her whole future on the idea that he was her upgrade. And it was only a matter of time before that whole thing collapsed. A house of cards. And me and my lawyer? We were making sure it happened. After mediation, Nicole's confidence? Yeah, that took a hit. She walked into that mediation room acting like she was Beyoncé herself, and walked out looking completely lost, like a deer caught in headlights. Honestly, it was kind of beautiful to watch. And Brandon, her loyal little hype man, didn't even step in to support her. He just trailed behind her, head down, scrolling on his phone like he didn't want any part of it. That right there? That was my first real sign their so-called empire wasn't nearly as solid as Nicole had been pretending. But let me back up a bit. Mediation wasn't just a minor setback for her. It was a full-blown disaster. Nicole really thought she was going to walk in, shed a few tears, and walk out with the house, half my savings, and ongoing support. Her lawyer tried to paint this whole narrative, that she was some underappreciated wife who sacrificed everything for my mediocre dreams. Mediocre dreams? I've been busting my ass at that warehouse job for years. Meanwhile, my lawyer, Adam, was completely ready for all of it. The guy came in prepared. Spreadsheets, screenshots, bank statements, everything. Turns out, Nicole had been draining our joint account for months before she even filed for divorce. We're talking spa days, designer clothes, $300 dinners. All while I was eating leftovers and trying to figure out where things went wrong. Adam laid it all out, dollar by dollar. Then came Brandon. And let's just say, that part didn't go well for them either. Adam brought up his past, his history of going after married women, feeding them compliments, getting them to leave their husbands, and then disappearing when the money stopped flowing. And the icing on the cake? Messages from one of Brandon's exes, literally warning Nicole about him. Of course, Nicole ignored it, because in her mind, she was different, special. But that illusion didn't last long. Even Brandon's confidence started to crack. That smug grin he always had, gone, replaced with this awkward, uncomfortable look, like he knew the whole thing was falling apart right in front of him. Nicole tried to defend him. Brandon's not like that anymore, she insisted. Yeah, sure. The problem was, the evidence didn't agree with her. And neither did the judge. By the end of that session, it was painfully obvious. Nicole wasn't getting the payout she thought she was. And Brandon? He already looked like a guy planning his exit. After mediation, something shifted. Nicole wasn't nearly as confident anymore. She still tried to keep up appearances on Instagram, posting her usual motivational stuff. But the tone had changed. Instead of living my best life, now it was, growth isn't always easy, but it's worth it. Yeah, okay, Nicole. Whatever helps you sleep at night. Brandon, on the other hand, he started showing his real face. He was still technically around, but barely. He stopped showing up to their little public outings. No more holding hands at restaurants. No more couple goals posts. And then word started getting around. Apparently, he'd already moved on, flirting with another client, someone younger, flashier, and most importantly, not stuck in the middle of a messy divorce. Classic. One night, Nicole came home late. At the time, we were still living under the same roof. Legally, I couldn't kick her out yet. She walked in looking completely drained. I didn't say a word, just sat there on the couch, watching her. She dropped her designer bag on the counter and let out this dramatic sigh, like she wanted me to ask what was wrong. But I wasn't playing that game anymore. I just got up and went to my room. The next morning, she tried to act like everything was normal. She was in the kitchen making one of those awful kale smoothies again, but something was off. That usual smug attitude? Gone. Brandon's just been busy with clients, she said out of nowhere. I didn't respond. I knew exactly what she was doing. She wanted me to ask, wanted me to care. Not happening. About a week later, things escalated. I got a call from Adam. Nicole had filed some last-minute paperwork. She was trying to claim even more assets. Her argument? She deserved emotional compensation for the stress I caused her during the marriage. Yeah, you heard that right. Apparently, her midlife crisis was my fault. The audacity was unreal. But Adam? He was already 10 steps ahead. He filed a countersuit immediately, laying out everything. How she drained our accounts. How she manipulated the situation. He even submitted her Instagram posts as evidence. And let me tell you, those captions? Absolute gold. They made it pretty clear she wasn't some suffering victim. She was living it up while trying to cash out. Right around that time, Brandon disappeared. Completely. Stopped showing up to their gym sessions. Stopped answering her calls. And then, this part was almost too perfect. He blocked her. On Instagram. Nicole lost it. I could hear her pacing around the house, calling him over and over. Brandon, call me back. We need to talk. Her voice? Desperate. And yeah, I won't lie. That felt good. Eventually, one of her friends spilled everything. Brandon had already moved on. New client. Younger. More exciting. And most importantly, no divorce drama attached. Nicole was crushed. She tried to act like she didn't care, posting those vague, cryptic quotes. Sometimes people aren't who they seem. You can't build an empire with someone who plays games. But everyone knew exactly what happened. Her perfect man bailed the second things got complicated. And that's when everything really started falling apart for her. She stopped going to the gym. The flashy outfits disappeared, replaced by sweatpants and messy hair. She even stopped posting on Instagram for a while. Which, honestly, that alone was shocking. It was like her entire identity had been built around Brandon and this fantasy life. And without him, she didn't know who she was anymore. One evening, she finally tried to talk to me. "Ryan," she said, standing in the doorway. "I think we need to rethink everything. This divorce, it's been hard on both of us." I just stared at her, waiting. "What exactly are you trying to say, Nicole?" She sighed, putting on that victim tone again. "I just think maybe we rushed into this. We had good times, didn't we?" I almost laughed. "You filed for divorce," I said. "You told me I was holding you back. Now that Brandon's gone, you're suddenly unsure? Seriously? Unbelievable." She tried to lean into sympathy, talking about how lonely she was, how much she'd sacrificed. But I wasn't buying any of it. "Nicole," I cut her off. "You made your choice. Now you live with it." And that was it. Her fantasy world was collapsing, and I didn't have to do a thing. Karma was handling everything. All right, that's where things stand for now, Reddit. I'll update you after the final court decision. And trust me, you're going to want to hear how this ends. Update 2. Hey Reddit, Ryan here again. If you've made it this far, get ready, because this is where everything really comes together. Nicole thought she was going to walk into court, take everything from me, and start her perfect new life with Brandon. But yeah, karma had other plans. Now we're at the final stage. Let me walk you through how things went down in court, and why Nicole probably wishes she never stepped into that courtroom in the first place. The day of the hearing finally arrived. Nicole walked into that courtroom, but something was different. Gone was that confident, diva-like strut I'd gotten used to. No designer blazer, no smug expression, just her and her lawyer, looking about as confident as two kids heading into detention. She had to know this wasn't going to go her way. The whole vibe in the room felt off. And honestly, I enjoyed every second of it. On my side, I was sitting there with Adam. And let me tell you, he came prepared. The man walked in carrying a binder so thick it could have doubled as a doorstop. Me? I wasn't nervous at all. At this point, I had nothing left to lose. Nicole had already thrown everything she had at me, and I was still standing. This wasn't about surviving anymore. This was about winning. Her lawyer kicked things off by bringing up that emotional compensation claim again. You know, the one where she painted Nicole as this long-suffering wife who had been emotionally drained by my lack of support. Apparently, me not supporting her fitness journey, which, let's be honest, was really just her affair with Brandon, counted as emotional neglect. Adam didn't interrupt. He just let her lawyer keep talking, giving them all the rope they needed. Then it was our turn. And that's when things flipped. Adam went piece by piece, tearing their entire argument apart. He showed clear proof that not only did I support Nicole, but I went above and beyond for her during that whole phase. He laid out everything. How I took over most of the chores, adjusted my work schedule, encouraged her every step of the way. He even read out text messages where I offered to cook healthy meals for her, supported her gym routine, and suggested we try couples fitness classes together to stay connected. And then, Adam dropped the hammer. That emotional compensation claim, it wasn't just weak. It was a cover-up, a blatant attempt to hide her own behavior. He pulled up emails and messages where Nicole was openly mocking me to her friends, calling me boring, calling me deadweight. There were screenshots of her bragging about Brandon, even referring to me as her backup plan. But the real knockout punch, that came next. Adam shifted to the financial side of things. He pulled up our bank records and showed exactly how Nicole had been draining thousands of dollars from our joint account. Luxury purchases, expensive dinners, personal indulgences. While I was at home trying to hold everything together, her lawyer tried to push back, but Adam wasn't finished. Not even close. Then he revealed the final piece. A journal entry. Nicole's journal. Something he had legally obtained. And inside it, her entire plan, written out in her own words. She talked about leaving me, taking everything she could from the marriage, and using the settlement money to build her new life with Brandon. The judge's reaction? I'll never forget it. Pure disbelief. The entire courtroom went dead silent as he read through it. Page after page. Nicole was sitting there, visibly tense, tapping her nails nervously against the table. That confidence she had before, completely gone. Across from her, I sat there with Adam, feeling this mix of anticipation and satisfaction. Because this was it. This was the moment her entire story fell apart. The judge finally spoke. "Mrs. Reynolds," he said, calm but firm, "your request for emotional compensation is not supported by any substantial evidence." He paused for a second, letting that sink in. While emotional distress can be considered in certain cases, this court requires clear and objective proof. Your claims are based on personal feelings, not facts. Then he turned to Adam's side. He went through everything, texts, bank statements, even her social media posts. Each piece painted a completely different picture from the one Nicole tried to sell. Then, for the first time, he addressed me directly. "Mr. Reynolds, the evidence shows a consistent pattern of support toward your spouse throughout the marriage. He nodded slightly. In fact, it suggests the opposite of neglect. You made significant efforts to support her goals and accommodate her needs. Nicole's lawyer tried to jump in. Something about context being misinterpreted. The judge shut it down immediately. The context is clear, counselor. Let's proceed. Then came the financial part. The judge reviewed everything carefully. Then he looked straight at Nicole. Mrs. Reynolds, records show you withdrew over $26,000 from your joint accounts prior to filing for divorce. His tone got noticeably colder. These funds were not used for shared expenses. Instead, they were spent on luxury goods, dining, and personal indulgence. He didn't hesitate. This court finds that behavior irresponsible and in violation of your financial obligations within the marriage. Nicole shifted in her seat, her face turning red. Her lawyer tried to downplay it, called it a coping mechanism. The judge wasn't having it. Coping mechanisms do not justify financial misconduct. Then came the house. Nicole had argued she deserved half, claimed she contributed emotionally. Adam was ready. He presented clear records showing I paid the mortgage, handled maintenance, and covered renovations. She contributed nothing financially. The judge didn't even pause. The house will remain the sole property of Mr. Reynolds. Nicole's jaw literally dropped. Her lawyer leaned in to whisper something to her, but she barely reacted. She looked completely stunned. And then, the final blow. Due to the unauthorized use of marital funds, Mrs. Reynolds is ordered to reimburse Mr. Reynolds in the amount of $26,450. You could have heard a pin drop. Her lawyer sank back in his chair. Nicole looked like all the air had been knocked out of her. Everything she built her story on collapsed. Completely. The ruling was final. No appeals. No loopholes. The judge closed the file. This court is adjourned. And just like that, it was over. I leaned back in my chair, finally feeling that weight lift off my chest. For the first time in months, I could actually breathe again. Walking out of the courtroom, the tension was still hanging in the air. Nicole's lawyer packed up quickly, avoiding eye contact. Nicole followed behind him, head down. For someone who walked into this whole thing acting like a reality TV star, she now looked completely defeated. Adam gave me a pat on the back as we headed out. We did it, he said with a small smile. I nodded, grateful. He didn't just defend me. He exposed everything. As I stepped outside the courthouse, I couldn't help but glance back at Nicole. She was still standing there, just staring down at the floor like she couldn't even process what had happened. For a split second, I actually felt a little sorry for her. But that feeling didn't last long. She created this whole mess. And now, she had to live with it. Over the next few days, the consequences of that ruling hit hard and fast. Nicole had 30 days to get out of the house, and I made sure that deadline meant something. She tried to drag it out, saying she needed more time to get things sorted. But I didn't budge. I reminded her she'd had months to figure her life out, back when she was busy showing off her new relationship with Brandon. Eventually, she had no choice. She packed up her stuff and moved out. And I won't lie, watching her leave that final day, yeah, it felt good. She loaded up her designer luggage into some beat-up car, apparently borrowed from a friend, and drove off without even looking back. No goodbye, no words, nothing. And just like that, the house changed. All that tension, all that resentment, gone. For the first time in a long while, it actually felt peaceful. Meanwhile, Nicole's situation started falling apart pretty quickly. Without access to my income, or the shared money she'd been living off, she was on her own. She tried selling off her designer clothes and handbags, but it barely made a dent in what she owed me. I started hearing things through mutual friends. She was borrowing money left and right, and people were already getting tired of hearing her excuses. As for Brandon, he was completely gone. Didn't answer her calls, didn't reply to her messages, just vanished, like he was never there to begin with. Then one night, about 2 weeks after the court ruling, she showed up at my house. No warning. I opened the door, and there she was. But she didn't look like the same person. Her hair was messy. Her eyes looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. Ryan, she said quietly, her voice shaking. Can we talk? I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. What do you want, Nicole? She hesitated, fidgeting with her hands. I wanted to say I'm sorry. She swallowed hard. For everything. I messed up. Badly. She looked down. I let Brandon get into my head. I got caught up in this fantasy and I ruined everything. The words sounded like she'd practiced them, but the desperation? That part was real. Still, I could see right through it. She wasn't here because she truly felt sorry. She was here because she had nowhere else to go. I don't know what you expect me to say, I told her, keeping my voice steady. You made your choices. You chose Brandon. You chose to try and take everything from me. I paused for a second. And now you're dealing with the consequences. Her eyes filled with tears. Can't we at least be civil? She said. Maybe start over? I have nothing, Ryan. Her voice cracked. I'm lost. I looked at her for a moment. And honestly, I felt nothing. Nicole, I said, I gave you everything. My support, my trust, my love. And you threw it all away. I shook my head. You don't get to come back now asking for another chance. That's not how this works. She broke down right there on my porch, crying like everything had finally hit her all at once. But I didn't move. After a moment, I stepped back inside and closed the door, left her standing there with the consequences of her own choices. Since then, I've moved on. As for Nicole, from what I've heard, she's still trying to put her life back together. She burned bridges, lost friends, and now she's dealing with the reality she created. Because sometimes, karma doesn't just knock politely. Sometimes it kicks the door down and leaves you with nothing but the aftermath.